Canto 10. Summary. As Dante and Beatrice ascend into the sphere of the sun, Dante the poet takes a moment to speak to the origin and order of all things. Following Orthodox Trinitarian teaching, the poet tells of how the Father and the Son, eternally breathing forth their love for one another, which love is the very person of the Holy Spirit, thus create and order all things. The world, therefore, cannot be understood or experienced apart from some knowledge or taste of Him. Dante turns again to his readers and tells them to raise their eyes to where the equatorial horizon and the elliptical meridian intersect. In other words, at the sun when it is at the vernal equinox. We are told to raise our eyes to this point and to be filled with the same love that fills the Creator, as He too lovingly admires His art. The poet next calls on us to consider the whole slanting circle on which turn all the planets, and how if they strayed from their paths even a fraction of an inch, their various influences would count for nothing. The cosmos is a perfectly balanced, perfectly ordered dance, and the reader is to stand in wonder. Returning to that matter of which he was made scribe, Dante tells how the pair instantly arrived in the fourth family, the sphere of the theologians. Beatrice exhorts the pilgrim to give thanks to Christ, the Son of Angels, for granting him this opportunity. He does, and his heart is filled with such devotion and love that even Beatrice is eclipsed in oblivion. She smiles at this, and the radiance of that smile awakens Dante to the many flames that are now wheeling round their heads, singing of heaven. One soul in particular begins to speak. It is the great 13th century Dominican, Thomas Aquinas. He graciously tells the pilgrim who is dancing in the garland above. Next to him is his former teacher, Albert of Cologne, or Albert the Great. After him is Gratian, the 12th century doctor who harmonized the laws of the church and of the state. Next is Peter Lombard, also from the 12th century, who is famous for his sentences. Following him is King Solomon, who goes unnamed here. After Solomon is the writer known today as Pseudo-Dionysius, from the 5th or 6th century, whose works were heavily influential to Aquinas as well as Dante. After him is Paulus Orosius, an early 5th century historian, who was a source for Augustine's great City of God. Next comes Boethius, also unnamed, though clearly identified from the clues within the text. After Boethius comes Isidore of Seville, Bede the Venerable, and Richards of St. Victor. Last, and therefore on Thomas's other side in the circle, is Siger of Brabant, also a 13th century teacher in Paris. Although Thomas and Siger had many fierce and unresolved theological disagreements while they were living, here they stand side by side. As Thomas finishes his identifications, the circle begins to move once more in the steps of its dance, singing in harmonies beautiful and sweet. Canto 10. Sun. Gazing on his Son with the love the one and the other eternally breathe forth, the primal and ineffable power with such order made all things wheel round through mind and space. He who stands in wonder cannot do so without a taste of him. Therefore, reader, raise with me your vision to the high wheels, directly to that part where the one and the other motions strike, and there begin to lovingly admire the Master's art. He loves it, in himself, such that from it he never takes his eye. See how from that point the oblique circle that bears each of the planets branches off to satisfy the world that calls on them. For if their slanting path were not to bend, many virtues in heaven would be vain, and almost all power dead here below. And were it to wander off of the straight, either more or less, much would be lacking in the worldly order, both north and south. Now remain, reader, there upon your bench, thinking back on what has till now been sipped, if you want joy before you grow weary. I set this before you, now feed yourself, for all my attention turns itself back to that matter of which I was made scribe. The unrivaled minister of nature, who with the worth of heaven stamps the world, and measures out our time with his own light, conjoined with that part just mentioned above, was himself wheeling along the spirals in which he always shows himself sooner. And I was with him, But of the rising I was not aware, no more than a man notices his first thought before it comes. Beatrice is she who thus pilots us from good to better immediately, such that her act does not extend in time. How shining must they have needed to be, those who were within the sun where I came, manifested not by color but light. Though I invoke genius, art, and custom, I could never speak so as to give sight, but one can believe. Let him along to see. And if our fantasies are much too low for such lofty heights, it is no marvel, for never has eye gone above the sun. Such was in that place the fourth family of the High Father, who satisfies it always, showing how he breathes and begets. And Beatrice began, give thanks to the Son of Angels, who to this sphere of perceiving has raised you by his grace. Heart of mortal was never so disposed to devotion, to give itself to God so swiftly with all its grateful assent, as I then made my own at her urging. And all my love so fixed itself on him that Beatrice was eclipsed and forgot. She was not displeased, but gave such a smile that the bright splendor of her laughing eyes drove my once focused mind to other things. I saw more flashes, living and whelming, make of us a center, themselves a crown, more sweet in voice than in appearance bright. Thus girdled we sometimes see the daughter of Latona, when the air is pregnant, retaining the thread that marks her region. In heaven's court, from which I have returned, many precious, beautiful gems are found that can never be withdrawn from that realm, and of them was the song of these lights here. He who acquires no wings to fly up there must therefore await report from the mute. When, singing of these things, those blazing suns wheeled themselves around us a full 3 times, just as the stars wheel around the fixed poles, they seemed to me like ladies in mid-dance, but keeping themselves rigid and silent, listening till the new notes are picked up. And I heard one of them begin to say, because the ray of grace wherein true love kindles itself and loving increases all the more, is so resplendent in you, conducting you above along that stair where none descends without rising once more. He who would deny you his vial's wine for your thirst would be no more free than streams that do not bring themselves down to the sea. You wish to know these plants that enflower this garland that pays court to the lady beautiful, who strengthened you for heaven. I was of the lambs of the holy flock that Dominic guided along the way, where one is well fattened unless he strays. This one, who is nearest me on my right, was brother and master to me, Albert of Cologne, and I, Thomas d'Aquino. If you wish to be certain of the rest, follow after my telling with your eyes, wheeling round above the beautiful wreath. This other flame emerges from the smile of Gratian, who assisted the one court and the other, which pleases paradise. The other one, who adorns our choir next, was that Peter who with the poor widow offered his treasure to the Holy Church. The fifth light, who is the most beautiful among us, breathes such love that all the world there below is greedy to know his fate. Within it is the high mind where wisdom so profound was placed, and if truth is true, no second ever rose to see so much. Behold next the shining of that candle that in the flesh below saw most within the angelic nature and ministry. In the other little light is laughing that advocate of Christian history, of whose Latin works Augustine made use. Now if you have drawn the eye of your mind from light to light behind all my praises, you are thirsty even now for the eighth. By seeing every good, there the holy soul rejoices within, who makes manifest the crafty world to one who listens well. The body from which he has hunted lies down below, in Celdauro. He has come from martyrdom and exile to his peace. Behold, flaming beyond, the ardent breath of Isidore, of Bede, and of Richard, who in contemplation was more than man. The one from whom your gaze comes back to me is the light of one spirit who, with thoughts most grave, considered death slow in coming. It is the eternal light of Sigurd, who, lecturing in the street of the straw, syllogized truths for which he was envied. Then, as the clock that calls us at the hour the bride of God rises to sing matins to her husband, so that he might love her, with one part drawing, the other driving, sounding tin tin with such a dulcet tone that the well-disposed spirit swells with love. So too I saw the glorious wheel move and render voice to voice in harmony, and with a sweetness that cannot be known except there, where joy always is itself.